Hello, ladies and gentlemen. At this point, by the time this video is uploaded, I will be in Qatar. I've said in other videos, but in case you didn't know, I will be there for the first half of the tournament, in the group stage and the round of 16s. But before I commence with all the vlogs that I plan to put up on the channel for you guys, I've decided to make one more video just talking about all the teams in the World Cup. I've basically ranked each team that's participating worst to best. I've ranked it in order, but just to kind of keep it organized, I'm going off of this tier list. Now, how am I going to go about these rankings? Obviously, FIFA has their own rankings for all these teams, but I'm not going to judge it off of that. I'm basically ranking these teams based on the quality of the actual team, along with the chances of them getting out of their group. I tried to put a list together. Obviously, you guys are going to disagree with it. I already know that, because it really also depends how you want to rank all these teams. I'm also not going to necessarily go off of my predictions. For example, in so many videos, I stated that I think the World Cup curse will happen. That doesn't mean I'm going to rank France low. I still think they're an absolute quality team, so they will get a high ranking in this. But I will be diving into each of these teams and kind of talk about why I rank them where. And we're doing it on the tier list website just to be a bit more organized, but kind of ignore the actual SA, B, C, D. I'm just kind of spreading it out evenly, so you might see one team that's in B when they technically should be in A. You'll see what I mean. But yeah, let me know your list ranking from 1 to 32 of all the World Cup teams in the comments below. Drop an early like, subscribe if you haven't already, and let's jump into it. Starting off with number 32 on this list, I have gone for the hosts, Qatar. Now, don't get me wrong, there's definitely possibility that even the lowest ranked team in this list can get out of their group. I would not be surprised if Qatar do so, as they are literally the hosts of the tournament. They definitely have that advantage playing out for them. Their group is difficult, but maybe doable. And they did recently win the Asia Cup, along with making it to the CONCACAF Gold Cup semi-final, losing to the USA. This side's been preparing a lot for this tournament. They had a lot of friendlies scheduled against teams all over the world, but some of their displays were definitely not convincing, such as losing to Croatia's U23 team 3-0. And we got to keep in mind, this side has never qualified for a single World Cup. I hope I'm not wrong on this fact, but I think they're the only debutants in this tournament, and they're the hosts. So unfortunately, it's somewhat of a no-brainer. No disrespect to the host nation, but it would be a bit disrespectful to put any other team lower than them. So they are definitely getting that 32nd spot, and yeah, they're in that D ranking. Sorry. Now at 31st place, I've gone for Australia. Now, Australia have qualified for many World Cups in their history. Since 2006, actually, they have participated in every single one. However, their road to qualifying for this World Cup has not been pretty. They nearly bottled it. They were so close on points with Oman, who were just below them in that playoff zone. They impressed in the playoffs, beating Peru after everyone believed Peru would be the ones to do it. This side could definitely be the ones that are responsible for the World Cup curse taking place. And there are some standout players in this squad, such as Aydin Hrustic, Aaron Moy, but some of their forwards, and this could age terribly, don't really convince me for the national team, such as Jamie McLaren, who bosses it in the A-League, but then when it comes to the national team against these tough teams in his group, it might be a bit too much of a task for him. Also, their manager Graham Arnold is more well known for his A-League success, unlike the national team. I don't think this is the best Australia squad we have seen. They're always an underdog in this tournament without a doubt, and they've only made it to the round of 16s once. So although they are a consistent participator in recent times, I don't see them pulling through in this, and I think there are other teams that do have a bit more of a shot. It could age terribly. They could be making it to the round of 16s with that World Cup curse going their way, but I'm putting Australia at 31st place. Now taking a look at 30th place, I have gone for Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia could definitely surprise people at this tournament. They are neighbors with the host. Their new head coach Renard used to manage Morocco. He was their manager in the last World Cup, actually, where they finished in 4th place. It was obviously a bit of a rough spell for him, but he has had some previous success before, and won the Africa Cup of Nations with Ivory Coast. Saudi Arabia did qualify for the last World Cup in Russia, but they had some hefty blows, like getting destroyed by Russia on opening day. And Renard has actually really seemed to revolutionize this side and really improve their defense. This year in 2022, Saudi Arabia have actually kept most matches very low scoring, at most only conceding 1 goal, apart from losing to Japan 2-0 earlier this year. So although their defense has really seemed to improve, the The one thing that's really worrying me about this side is their attack. There are many moments where they're not clinical enough in front of goal, make some silly mistakes, so I don't want to rule out Saudi Arabia 100%, but still, in this ranking video, I am putting them at 30th place. Now at 29th place, I have gone for Costa Rica. We all know about their admirable fairy tale in 2014. Nobody's going to forget that, and of course, it makes me not want to doubt this side too much. They do possess one of the best goalkeepers in this tournament, who could definitely turn up against these giants in their group, Spain and Germany, because they do lack some clinical finishers. But at the end of the day, I think this squad just doesn't have enough to produce some kind of fairy tale once again. Of course, I could be wrong. I would be very happy if I am for Costa Rica. But if I do see a quote-unquote underdog coming out of this group, for me, it's Japan. And that's actually the main reason why I'm putting Costa Rica so low, is because I just think their group is really, really tough for them. Now at number 28th, and if you watch my prediction videos, this might surprise you, I have gone for Tunisia. I'm banking on this team to be the ones to continue the World Cup curse, being the ones to advance over France. And they definitely have what it takes. They have put out some decent results. They actually just beat Iran in a friendly 2-0. And earlier this year, they were able to beat the likes of Japan and Chile by decent scorelines. This side was criticized in the past for lacking that goal-scoring threat, but it seems like they're starting to experiment with other options, and it's going their way. The best reference to their lack of goal-scoring threat is their end of the World Cup qualifiers, where they had to face Mali over both legs and qualified for the World Cup just off of one own goal from Mali. This side deserves loads of credit though. They had decent runs in the recent Africa Cup of Nations, like making it to the quarterfinals after upsetting for so many people Nigeria in the round of 16s. I still have faith in this side to impress many people, but if we're going to go throughout an overall ranking of each of these teams, I'm sorry, they do have to finish lower in this list. Of course, a lot of these players are very underrated, but if you're going to go objectively group to group, the group they have, it's going to be a tough task. I think they have what it takes, but that's kind of me hoping for, I don't want to say miracle. I'm not even necessarily hoping for it, but for that World Cup champions curse to continue, they could be the destined side, but that's really all that's backing them up. If you're trying to be logical and stick to what's on paper, France definitely look like the favorites against them, and they do look like a massive underdog in this group. I hate to say it. So that's why I'm putting Tunisia so low. Now, next on this list at 27th place, I have gone for Ghana. Ghana are going to be an absolute mystery team at this tournament, for they have just gotten so many players before the World Cup, basically recruited many of them since they were dual nationals, like Lamptey, Inaki Williams. List goes on. This could make them a more threatening side for sure, but it also might make them lack that unity. They haven't really had much practice together since they have just been appointed for the national team. Ghana's group is also potentially filled with life, where there's two favorites, Portugal and Uruguay, but they could definitely expose either of these teams. In the FIFA rankings, I believe they are the lowest ranked team out of all the teams that are in the World Cup. So they definitely have a lot to prove to boost that ranking, and I don't think you should count them out whatsoever. But amongst these other teams, for me, they are amongst the lower ones. Not at the bottom, though. Now, at 26th place, I have gone for Cameroon. Cameroon actually is a very solid squad, but they haven't been getting convincing displays in their recent friendlies, like losing to Uzbekistan 2-0, losing to Korea 1-0, and also losing to Jamaica 1-0. The Africa Cup of Nations, which they have hosted, they did get third place, but they cut a lot of those matches close to the road to that stage, and they were against teams that they should have been clean sweeping, like Comoros. There are definitely some solid players in here, and we are seeing somewhat of a quote-unquote revival with Choupo-Moting, who has been fantastic for Bayern Munich this season. Abu Bakr and Toko Ekambi have been proven to be clutch for the national team as well. Zambo Anguissa has been killing it for Napoli. There are definitely some talking points, even Onana, their goalkeeper. But with these results that they have been displaying lately, and this very difficult group that they have been placed in, with one of the favorites for many to win the entire tournament, Brazil, an underdog Serbia that has really improved within the past 4 years. They've never made it past the group stage, but they're very much looking to this year. And Switzerland, who have already proven to be a giant killer. Now at 25th place, I am gonna be choosing Mexico. El Tri is a great side and always have that World Cup history of making it to the round of 16 since 1994. They also shared points with first place in the CONCACAF qualifiers, Canada. They did it at the end. Bravo to Mexico. They have been just getting the results. However, I still feel that their manager, Tata Martino, is very much holding back this side from succeeding even more. For me, he brings them down in this ranking by a significant margin, because there's a lot of quality players, obviously. Chucky Lozano, Edson Alvarez. So this side is capable of so much more. And who knows, they still definitely have potential to overachieve at this tournament. Like I said, Tata Martino still does quote-unquote the job. But is it going to be enough at this World Cup? I still think he can hold them back from potentially succeeding even more. So Mexico, for me, sits pretty low, mainly due to their manager. Now at 24th place, I have gone for Ecuador. Ecuador's squad is one of the youngest at the World Cup. They're filled with so much promising talent, lots of great players. Their defense has been looking very sharp as well. They've kept so many matches low scoring. The last time they conceded a goal was in March against Argentina. They are in a very doable group, especially with Sadio Mane being injured. I definitely see this side escaping their group. There's just two things that worry me about this side. Number one is their away record. Yes, they should be very proud of their World Cup qualified campaign, but they did not have the most convincing display whenever they played away. Obviously, this whole tournament will be away for them. However, it's a neutral ground. Well, actually, no, not against the hosts. So that also could be a downfall for them. I don't really have any other bad things to say about this side. I really am excited to see what they're capable of. Now, just in front of Ecuador, I have gone for South Korea. South Korea are obviously going to rely on their main man, Son, to do the job. He is just going to be returning from injury, but they are hopeful that he will get some playing time. They also have one of the most informed defenders this year, Kim Min-jae. Him and Son definitely boost this ranking up for me because these are absolute game changers on the pitch, along with all those other players like Ujjo Hwang in the attack, Hwang Hee-chan. Many people regard either them or Japan as the more electric sides in Asia, and I definitely think they deserve some recognition, and I am putting them at 23rd place. Now, just above South Korea, I have gone for the United States of America. The USA as a squad has so much to offer. I believe they are the youngest nation at this tournament. Correct me if I'm wrong, but they're definitely amongst that number. Squad filled with potential, just like Ecuador, but what's holding this team back? Again, we're going to the manager. Greg Berhalter does not make the best decisions for this national team in terms of the roster and tactics. He left out some center forwards that have been very informed this year, like Pifak and Pepe, but they've still got all those cement starters like Weston McKennie, Christian Pulisic. These are all players that can contribute to escape this doable group. That's why I got to give USA a bit more of a bump than the other teams I've just recently talked about. Their group is very doable, which makes this job for Greg Berhalter even more, I guess, on the line. Because if he's not able to lead his team to the knockouts, it would be a disappointment. And that's not me discrediting Iran or Wales. I think it's really 50-50 between all those three nations. England are probably the favorites. But I think the USA at the moment are the most flawed team amongst that group, mainly because of their manager, which is why I'm putting them lower than the rest of the teams in that group. I do have more faith in the likes of Iran and Wales to escape. Now at 21st place, I am putting Poland. Poland are in that group with Argentina, Mexico, and Saudi Arabia. And Poland don't have history suggesting that they'll make it through, as they've been dreadful in the last two international tournaments they participated in. They always seem to do well in the qualifiers, but then bottle it in the actual tournaments. So I am a bit doubtful for this side also, which is why I'm maybe putting them a bit lower, even though they still have loads of quality on their team. One of the best strikers in the world, Robert Lewandowski. Zielinski, who has been absolutely incredible in the midfield. Matty Cash switching from England to Poland. This is a side nobody should be writing off when you look at their team on paper, but many times in these big moments, they seem to kind of lack that spark. This could be their perfect opportunity, though, to turn things around and do well in this tournament. Now at 20th place, I'm going with Canada. Canada at the moment are claiming that title as the kings of CONCACAF. They fully deserve it after that incredible display, getting first in the qualifiers, being the top goal-scoring nation in 2021. Hats off to this side. It's going to be a tough task in their group though, but this side should definitely still be optimistic. They have some players that have been fantastic like Alphonso Davies, Tejan Buchanan, Jonathan David. The list goes on. These players also unify wonderfully together under their manager John Herdman. This is going to be one of the most interesting underdogs to watch at the tournament, whether or not they get out. What's holding them back, in my opinion, is lack of experience against other teams in the world. They've played against CONCACAF teams so many times, obviously. They did have some recent friendlies against Qatar and Uruguay, but they still haven't prepared against a European or African team. So lack of experience might be bringing this side down, but regardless, they have every reason to be hopeful for this tournament. Best of luck to Canada. And just above them, I'm putting their fellow group member, Morocco. It looked a bit doubtful for Morocco under their previous manager, Halil Hodzic. But now with Regragui, who has brought back talents like Ziyech, fans are a lot more hopeful. Their goalkeeper Bono was one of the best goalkeepers in La Liga last year, for example. Hakimi is one of the most talked about players of this new generation. They have other solid defenders like Aguerd. A ridiculous amount of key players that can 100% surprise at this World Cup. And this is that example I'm talking about where I'm putting them at C just to kind of make this tier list even, but I mean, obviously I'd put them a bit higher. This group, like I've stated, is very difficult with 2 European sides that have had wonderful World Cups. It's going to be a tough task for like some Morocco and Canada, but they definitely have what it takes, and I wouldn't be surprised if one of them makes it through. If I got to bank on one of them making it through, I wouldn't be surprised if it's either of them, obviously, but I'd probably choose Morocco. Everybody's hyping up each of these teams in this group for obvious reasons. It's a group of hope without a doubt, and Morocco are definitely at edge, pretty much in the middle of this list for me. Next up in that B tier, I am going with Wales. Wales are in their first World Cup since 1958, but their recent Euro tournaments were definitely solid runs for this country. Euro 2016 being the best example, them making it all the way to the semifinals. Everybody kind of seemed to forget about this side for the next Euro run in Euro 2020 as everybody was hyping up the likes of Turkey, claiming they were going to be the dark horse of that tournament. Well, Wales just kind of popped out of nowhere and said, hey, we're still in this. They grabbed second place, got demolished in the round of 16s to Denmark, yes, but still they made that group stage stance. And like I mentioned earlier, this group that they are in is filled with possibility for those 3 teams, Wales, USA, and Iran. And Wales have proven to be a very structured side, even under their manager Rob Page. They 100% have what it takes, once again, to kind of be that silent team that ends up breaking through to the knockouts. Gareth Bale always turns up for the national team. They have a lot of young players as well that can definitely make a scene in this group. I would not rule off Wales, and the reason I'm putting them higher than the likes of Morocco is mainly due to their group. Now, just above Wales is again a fellow member of their group, Iran. Iran has every reason to be hopeful for this World Cup as well, because they have just reappointed their manager Carlos Queiroz, who although didn't escape the group last time around, still had a fantastic display, where they were in a group with Spain, Portugal, and Morocco, nearly making it out, 1 point behind Portugal. Iran are definitely going to play very defensively at this World Cup, unless Queiroz decides he wants to be brave, but he is known to be that defensive manager. We've seen it for the other national teams he's managed, and he does have great attackers to rely on for those counterattacks, as Taremi and Azmoun have very much improved since 2018. I would 100% not sleep on this side, and to me, out of all of the teams in Asia, apart from Japan, who I haven't ranked yet, obviously, I think they might have the best chance to escape their group. Now, who am I putting just above them? I just mentioned them. The last Asia team, which we haven't gone over yet, Japan. Japan are going to have a difficult time in this group, there's no question about that. But we have seen that they are capable of being in these high-pressure situations. From the last World Cup, where they nearly did it against Belgium in the round of 16s. To me, they are probably the most electric side from Asia. They can definitely score a decent amount of goals in this group stage, whether or not they make it out. With Daichi Kamada, who is right now one of Frankfurt's best players, to Ito, who has grabbed so many assists in the Belgian league last year, Tomiyasu in the defense, this is one of the most energized teams at the World Cup. And to me, I think they genuinely got so unlucky to be in this group. I would have so much more faith in them to produce something here if they were in an easier group, but I would not be surprised if they make it out regardless. They're going to put up some fantastic fights against those European giants, Germany and Spain. Now above them is Switzerland, the giant killer of Europe. This side has upset Italy to not be in this World Cup. They're the first ones to push them to that playoff spot. They beat France in the round of 16s in the last Euros. They drew with Brazil last time in the World Cup, and they are in a group with them once again. This side is often paired with some very tough opponents, and they usually put off good displays. It's never a good idea to write off the Swiss here. Their defense is looking pretty solid at the moment, with Fabian Schär in form at Newcastle, Elvedi for Borussia Mönchengladbach. Jan Sommer in between the sticks is a fantastic option. We've seen it so many times. Their group is going to be difficult without a doubt, and at the moment, you already know this, I am edging it towards Serbia advancing. But I would not be surprised whatsoever if Switzerland are the ones to do so, with even the likes of Granit Xhaka in fantastic form for Arsenal. This is a side that can definitely cause damage again. Some people might argue that they should be higher in this list, but I am putting them in the first half of this list at least. I think they definitely deserve that credit at minimum. Maybe I could have put them a bit higher, but I'm going to leave them here. Moving on to the team that I've placed just above Switzerland, but you can definitely argue that they should be below them actually. I've gone for Serbia. Now, Switzerland do have more history in tournaments than Serbia do. In fact, Serbia have never made it past the group stage in the World Cup since becoming an independent nation. However, Serbia's team has drastically improved since the last World Cup, where Switzerland were able to beat them head-to-head. In my eyes, and I could be wrong obviously, I do see Serbia grabbing revenge here. With their incredible attack of Aleksandar Mitrovic and Dusan Vlahovic to their midfield of Milinkovic Savic and Dusan Tadic, a lot of people like to point out that their defense might not be at its best compared to the midfield in the attack, but Pavlovic under Pixie seems really promising. Milinkovic can definitely still come in clutch as well. I don't think Serbia have many reasons to fear. Also in the Nations League, they did come against some quote-unquote weaker opponents, but they were still able to pocket the likes of Holland when they played Norway recently. These sides definitely both have their strengths to go on about at the moment, Serbia and Switzerland, and since they're in the same group, I definitely see them having kind of the same placement in these rankings. I'm definitely seeing one of them go through to the next round, but the question is which one? For me, it's Serbia, and if anyone says Switzerland, I don't blame you guys. The team I'm selecting above Serbia, which was a dark horse for so many people, is Senegal. Now, I don't have as much faith in Senegal as I used to because of Sadio Mane's injury. I think he was a crucial element to that team in order for them to succeed in the attack. They're still the most stacked team in Africa on paper though. Incredible goalkeeper Mendy, Koulibaly in the back, Idrissa Gueye, Sarr in the attack as well, just not as potent as Mane. This side seemed destined to be the ones to have a deep run in this World Cup, and they still definitely have a shout. Senegal have what it takes with Aliou Cisse in charge as well. He has been their manager for a decent amount of time now, and he has definitely improved this side to what it was before. Tactically sound side that got unlucky in the last World Cup, literally not advancing to the next round due to yellow cards accumulated. They're in a group that is supposed to be doable for them as well. So I do have Senegal in these rankings, definitely higher than some of the other teams. And in my opinion, the highest ranked Africa team for now. This whole list is debatable, obviously, but the rest of the teams in this tier list are definitely kind of up to your preference. Well, somewhat. But they're all incredible teams without a doubt. The team I'm going for, though, that's in that B ranking, but I don't necessarily think they're a B. I still think they're an A, but I'm just trying to even out that playing field, similar to Morocco. I've gone for Belgium. Belgium for me are at number 12. I know that might sound absurd. They were at number 1 not too long ago in the FIFA rankings. Well, I think they've heavily depleted, unfortunately, since their golden generation was at its peak. Definitely not looking as potent before. Lukaku is rumored to be injured at the beginning. You can still rely on Kevin De Bruyne. You've got Eden Hazard as well captaining this side, but he's definitely not the same player as we once knew. Their back line is also aging. Toby Alderweireld and Vertonghen were fantastic back in the day, but I don't know if they're the best options to rely on. I know they're giving their other youngsters a go, but it seems like they're still getting a decent amount of playing time. Courtois is known to be one of the best goalkeepers in the world, but unfortunately hasn't had the best season so far. Will that translate to the national team? It's all up in the air. I still have faith in Belgium to qualify for the next round, but I do think they have heavily depleted in terms of their status. I know most people probably rank them a lot higher than me, and it's no shade to Belgium, but I really don't think they're the same side as they once were. To me, they're just not a World Cup winning team like they were in 2018. I'm implying that they were my favorites in 2018, and now, no. Now that first team in the A slot, but again, this ranking doesn't really justify. Just trying to even out the teams. I have gone for Denmark. People like to say Denmark are the dark horse of the tournament, but to be honest, they've really proven themselves recently. Euro semifinals, unifying wonderfully throughout that tournament. Kasper Hjulmand does magic for this side. A lot of these players at club level don't excel to their full potential, but then when they turn up for the national team, they look like an absolute unit. They bossed through some big teams. They've beaten France twice already head-to-head, and now they're going to be in the same group in the World Cup as well. So to me, they're going to grab first because I think they can definitely get results against Tunisia and Australia. And I definitely think they're capable of a deep World Cup run depending on their future opponents. But this side has so many underrated players along with that unity, like I said. I think that they are capable of doing bits at this World Cup, and I gotta rank them highly here. On paper, Belgium might look better still with those key players like Kevin De Bruyne. However, the unity of this side is definitely a bonus, as well as the group that they're in. We've already seen them being able to handle France. They can do it again. And then at 10th place, I have put Uruguay just in front of them. Uruguay are a fantastic side coming into this World Cup, blended with veterans and youngsters. Their midfield is also looking very much in form with the likes of Valverde doing bits at Real Madrid, even though he's been playing as a winger at times. and Bentancur on Tottenham has been exceptional. I think this side will be going into the tournament confident, especially after appointing Diego Alonso. The side seemed to have a bit of a scare, like I mentioned earlier, under Oscar Tabarez, but ever since they sacked him, appointed Diego Alonso, things started working out in their favor. They look a lot more organized, ready to do the job, and I really wouldn't be surprised if Uruguay are able to make a deep run in this tournament, along with the other South America giants. Now at number 9, I'll be called biased for this, but I am putting them in my top 10. Hrvatska, Croatia. They obviously made it to a World Cup final last time around. And after that, there were some question marks for this team, but they really seemed to fix their mistakes, appoint a lot of youngsters. They revolutionized that back line. They're looking to go into this tournament with great form as well. They bossed their Nations League group. Just a bit of a scare at the beginning against Austria, but after that, they were able to beat the likes of France and Denmark. This is also one of the best midfields at the World Cup. Luka Modric, Mateo Kovacic, and Brozovic could be key at this tournament. All exceptional players. The only problem for Croatia is that center forward role. That's the only potential issue I see playing out, depending on who Dalic ends up starting. But this squad has every reason to still believe in themselves and aim high for this tournament. Lots of people are doubting them. I see a decent amount of people saying they'll probably get grouped. They won't live up to that same hype as 2018. But like I said, Croatia kind of fixed those mistakes that they seem to be lacking in, apart from that center forward role. So I really still think they are a top team. You can't argue that Uruguay should be there above them, but I do think Croatia deserve to be in the top 10 for now. And number 8, just in front of Croatia, I have gone for England. Now, we know this squad is very competitive to be in the first place, but Southgate has made some questionable calls. We all know that. Not selecting Tomori is ridiculous. Ivan Toney has been in great form as well. However, we all know the squad is competitive to get into, and Southgate does have his success in these big tournaments. World Cup semifinals last time, Euro finals. Has he really been put to the test, though? You can't argue that he wasn't easy paths for both of those tournaments, and the thing is, he easily could be here again if they get first in this group. But also, their group is very doable for them, so I do think they have a very solid shout at having a deep run this tournament, despite those Nations League results. That's another thing that's kind of setting England back at the moment for this ranking. I know some people like to write it off, but they did get relegated. And you can say what you want about it not mattering. But now, due to that, England are in a tough Euro qualifier group for the first time in a while. England are still a top side without a doubt, and they can easily put those Nations League results past them. It was a difficult group, but that's the thing. How are they going to do against those top teams in this tournament? Now at number 7, I've put Spain. Spain is such an elite side, but again, we're going to have to go to the manager here. Luis Enrique, intelligent guy, but he obviously has his favorites. The difference between Enrique and the likes of Southgate is so many people are questioning Southgate's picks. But Enrique, people are still somewhat questioning, but they seem to trust him more because he still plays with absolute identity. That's the thing about Spain. They are one of those national teams that really emphasizes their identity on the pitch. So he kind of picks those players that really fit into those system. He left out some big names like Thiago, Sergio Ramos, David De Gea. But we criticized him for that in the past as well in the Euros. And he made it to the semifinals in that tournament. It's a young team, a fresh team, but they still have what it takes to put off great results here. Definitely some elite players that might lack the experience, but still have absolute hunger for the game. Pedri, one of the best examples. I'm seeing some people are going for an upset in this group and targeting Spain to be the ones that fall down to the likes of Japan. It's definitely possible, but I wouldn't rule out this side just yet. Now at number 6, I have gone for Portugal. I'm gonna shift to the managers again. This squad is fantastic. The players they have are unbelievable. The attack is amazing. Although Cristiano Ronaldo hasn't been in the best form, I wouldn't necessarily doubt him just yet either. This is his last World Cup. You already know he's gonna do his best, although it has seemed to slow down the gears a bit. I know some people are arguing that he shouldn't even be starting, but Santos will definitely start him. And that's the problem with this national team. It's him, the manager. He's just too focused on this outdated system that doesn't seem to work with all of this talent he possesses. He doesn't even like to utilize Rafael Leao too much, who has been fantastic for AC Milan. I would genuinely bank on Portugal making such a deep run if they had a more organized manager. That's the one thing that's setting them back. I want to see that talent flourish, and it doesn't under Santos. Joao Cancelo, one of the best fullbacks. Bruno Fernandes, we've seen this guy pop off, and we've seen him have good moments for Portugal as well, but it's just not enough. It's a shame to see this generation at this current moment of time potentially going to waste. Maybe they can have a deep run. Santos can prove me wrong, but it's just easy to pick at him. Now, at number 5, I have gone for Germany. So that completes that A-level tier. Germany looked to be on a bit of a rebuild under Hansi Flick after they had Low for so long. Like I mentioned, they're in that difficult group, and they didn't have a great display in the Nations League. But again, they were in a tough group. They were missing some key players in some of those matches. I could definitely see this side having a very deep run. They've got a lot of youngsters like Musiala balling out, or Wirtz, who is injured, unfortunately. But they've also got a lot of Bayern players on this side that obviously know how to unify well together, along with those other big names like Rudiger. The thing is, this attack has potential to be so electric, and it is at times. But sometimes I feel like their talent and ability goes to waste somehow. Havertz is a great player when he's in form, but if he doesn't score in a match, he doesn't really seem to contribute whatsoever. Very stacked squad. I just think they need a few more years to really be that elite side like in 2014 once again. I think that this next Euro tournament, well, where they're the hosts, is going to be very beneficial for them. So we'll see how they progress. I do have more faith in them in the future, and I still think they can potentially have a very good run in this tournament. But just at the moment, they aren't at that top 4 slot for me. I think 5 is still pretty good though. So now moving on to that top 4 in the S category. First up, I've gone for France at number 4. Now look, I know I said that this side will probably go through the World Cup curse, but that's my quote-unquote superstitious brain kind of going in there. And France are going through a decent amount of injuries, which is why I think it will be present once again, but you cannot deny how great this squad is. Even with those missing midfield links with Kanté and Pogba injured and now Nkunku in training, you still can get those young players like Camavinga and Tchouaméni. Believe that they can prove themselves. They might lack the experience, but they still play for an elite club, Real Madrid, and have proved themselves there already. A lot of the defenders are looking in form, such as Saliba, Upamecano, Theo Hernandez, and the attack. Mbappe and Benzema were the most informed players last year. It would be genuinely insane if the World Cup curse happens, but we say that every single year, which is why I'm kind of leaning towards it happening to France. But if we're going to ignore that aspect, when you look at their squad and when you look at what these players are absolutely capable of, they are definitely a top side. There's no denying that. We'll see how they end up progressing. I could be very wrong about my superstitious prediction, but I am going to go for that number 4 spot for France. And number 3, I've gone for the most informed team in Europe at the moment, Netherlands. Netherlands were the only team in League A in the Nations League to go undefeated. And it's very interesting how this country has kind of morphed into a different side compared to back in the day. In 2010 and 2014, their defense looked weaker and their attack looked absolutely dangerous, with Van Persie and Robben up top. Now, their defense is one of the best in the world, on paper. Van Dijk, De Ligt, De Vrij, the list goes on. And going off of Timber, there's so many other young players that can make a name for themselves here. Gakpo has been on fire this year. Depay might not be Van Persie, but he still pulls through for the national team. Under Van Gaal, who already has experience coaching his country, it could be a wonderful display from them. And they are in a very doable group. And not to mention, Netherlands already have a fantastic history doing well in the group stage in the World Cup whenever they do qualify. I think if any European team is going to have a deep run in this tournament and that round of 16 bracket is in their favor, it's got to be Netherlands to have a really solid run. I think quarterfinals minimum for them. Now, although Argentina are my World Cup favorites, I'm putting them at number 2. I think Brazil at the moment are a more complete side when you look at them on the surface. But you can't ignore how much Argentina have improved since 2018. Under Scaloni, this side looks revolutionized. The defense has improved massively. Even some of the players that were playing back then, like Otamendi, who looked dreadful, look fantastic now. The midfielders on the surface don't really look to be that potent, but they have really important roles actually for the team. Their goalkeeper Martinez is very reliable, an absolute warrior for the national team. I think Argentina already have the advantage if they have to take matches to penalties. Not to mention they have one of the best, if not the best player in the world. Their attack is just insane. Along with Messi, Martinez from Inter Milan, crucial player. Angel Di Maria, he seems to score an insane goal every single World Cup. The only reason I'm putting Argentina below Brazil is because Brazil just do have that better team on paper overall. Every single position is complete apart from the fullbacks. Their fullbacks are still not bad. They're just not as potent as the rest of their team. If any of these players get injured in their starting 11, they'll still be okay. They have the best attacking depth in the world. Very great defensive midfielders to rely on. No Casemiro? Okay, no problem. You got Fabinho now. Alisson's injured? Okay, we'll just take the Manchester City goalkeeper instead. Chichi gets some criticism from some people, but I still think he's doing a great job with the team. This side, I agree with FIFA's rankings, is the #1 team. Will they win the World Cup, though? I am edging it towards Argentina. I really think that's a flip of a coin, but if you're going to properly rank them one by one, I will put Brazil just above Argentina. Both of these sides deserve all the praise. They've been undefeated in so long. I believe the last time Brazil got defeated was against Argentina in the Copa America, so you can't argue Argentina is at that #1 spot right now. But yeah, guys, here is my final list. As you can see, obviously, you're going to have your disagreements, so let me know politely in the comments. Respect to all these nations. No hate was intended for any of them whatsoever. I wish your country the best at the World Cup. I cannot wait for this tournament to begin. You might be watching it as it already has started, but yeah. Let me know who you think's winning the World Cup in the comments below, and your list as well, what you would change from this. Hit that like button if you haven't already. Subscribe if you're new. Thank you all for making it to the end. I will see you all very, very soon. Next video is a vlog. Take care. Lá com noite.